those type of things are just those are heavy in itself, right? On top of whatever you're struggling with, and you have to try to navigate through that. That is where it's hard. And if you don't have the right partner or support system, you could be stuck for a very, very, very long time.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling in Iowa.
And my name is Maggie Alton, and I am a therapist at Heart and Solutions. The mission of our podcast, You Need a Counselor, it's for people curious about counseling, but who have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is Brandon Moore. Brandon is the founder of MotivatedMinds Consulting. They do tons of different services for various individuals. And Brandon is also a certified life coach and offers that kind of guidance and support for individuals to help them with self-awareness, to help with navigating life challenges and thriving in their lives. So welcome, Brandon. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
Hello. So, Brendan, what is a certified life coach, and how did you kind of get into that field?
Well, I guess the easy definition for a certified life coach is just somebody to just help you along the way. Just, sort of like a map, GPS, Sally tells you turn left here, turn right here. But also will give you some suggestions as well. And then we don't prescribe medication. We don't do anything like that. It's just pretty much it's like having a best friend that has no judgment and doesn't know your life, so they can't cater towards you because they know you. It's one of those, you have that stranger that just kind of tells you how it is, and you kind of go back and like, oh my goodness, that person was right, or maybe I can do this, or, he said the perfect thing, to help motivate me for this. That's my definition of what a life coach is. It's just somebody else that they can just be on your shoulder to help you when times get tough. And if you don't want to see um, a licensed counselor or a psychiatrist or anything like that, it kind of gives a healthy balance, for that, right? Because all of us want the best for that particular person. And so this is kind of it's kind of like the lighter version of it without prescribing the medication and all that stuff. And I kind of got into it because really COVID, man, when COVID hit, it whew, it hit. I tell you, you never know what somebody's going through, and if COVID taught us anything, that's exactly what it taught me, is that you never know what somebody's going through, even when somebody's smiling and they're just walking along their day, just da 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 da, and all this stuff. You think they're doing fine, but they're fighting this dark battle, and that's kind of what I was fighting. Lost my job, and I have 2 master's degrees and went years without a job. And that was kind of unheard of for me. And it affected I was newly married. I was newly married, from family to friends. I mean, it impacted all that, and um, one night I was just kind of going through the motions on the couch. I was depressed, and And I'd kind of started a little podcast, just about talking about mental health and talking about men's feelings and all this type of stuff. And then a buddy of mine said, well, somebody would love to hear that, or you could help somebody. And I was like, "Nah, I'm not helping nobody. Ain't nobody gonna listen to me. And I literally looked it up on the internet, um, paid the fee, and took the test. I literally took the test right then and there and passed it, and then went back and so was like, okay, oh my gosh, what did I just do? What did I just do? And then, but went back and really got engulfed with being a life coach, and I've had some wonderful clients, and kind of helped them along their way. So it's a little backdrop for you.
I say that sounds like a lot. I mean, of course, during COVID, everything we knew got literally pulled out from under us, and then on top of it, like you said, with dealing with the fallout from work, and then
Mhm.
newly married, all of those different factors. You mentioned that you took a test for the life coach. I'm curious, what is the process of becoming a life coach? Like, is there classes or courses, or like how does that
Well,
work?
well, the funny thing is during COVID, a lot of places were offering a lot of like online like tutorials and classes and stuff like that. So it was actually pretty. I don't want to say simple, but it was kind of um, self self navigated. It was kind of you registered, and they do your little information, and there's various levels of life coaching that you want to do. You sign up, and then they give you the material. And during that time, because there was no in-person classes, all your material was kind of self-guided online. So you just kind of read through the material, and then at the end, you had a um, certification test, so you can be certified. And if you failed it, that was it. You that was it. And then you pass it. They give you a little certification, little award letter thing in your email, and there you go.
You talked about during COVID, you had these dark battles that you were going through that really led you to want to help other people. And you mentioned that you were having some depressive symptoms at that time. And when you were describing the situation you were in, it makes me think about this year in 2025, so many people losing their jobs, so many fewer jobs being created. And so, can you tell us more about those depressive symptoms that you were experiencing and what that was like for you?
Oh man, you don't want to do anything. You Everything in your mind, you're second guessing everything in your mind. Anything that somebody says to you, you're questioning their validity, but it's really based on your insecurity. You are just kind of just going through the motions. When you wake up, and when you wake up, you do the same thing over and over and over again. And you just you don't feel like doing anything. You just kind of blah blah blah, just kind of going through the motions. It's like you're heavy. Like you're heavy from your shoulders are heavy, your back is heavy, you start to picking up a little weight. You're you just have no interest in anything. Um, you're what we call a um, quick response. You're quick to fly off the handle. Those are some major symptoms. There was I noticed that, and then but then on top of that, you're battling you're battling authentic judgment. Okay, so let's touch on this for a second. So you're battling authentic judgment. You're battling people that are actually judging you, and you're battling that on top of the other demons that you're already like facing. You know what I mean? So it's not your insecurities. It's like, no, these people are actually judging you. They're talking about you. They're da da da, da, and you have to battle that because when you're going through that, you're by yourself. Like you're by yourself, and I was by myself. And so, yes, I was married, but I was by myself. We were going through our own battles. We were going through our own battles in regards of stuff that was being fed to her, that was being processed in her mind because she had never been through anything like that. It's like, oh, okay, well, what the outside saying must be true, because if it wasn't true, why would they say? It's kind of one of those. If you tell a young kid, don't eat the popsicle, don't eat too many popsicles, your stomach, your stomach will hurt, and they don't believe you until it happens. It's kind of like, well, why would he say it if it's not true? And that's kind of this kind of things would happen. So you're you're in a war zone, and the side that you feel that should be helping you, it's literally the side that is against you. So you're behind your own enemy lines. That adds to that depressive feeling. That adds to that, man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta figure out something, right? So those are just some of the major symptoms, along with the reality of what was happening.
I appreciate that you spoke to that heaviness, because that's something that I say a lot with my clients, that, when you are depressed, it can feel like going to shower is like the hardest thing in the world, And so I'm curious if you would be willing to speak on your your perspective, and I guess your thoughts on how you were able to make that change, right? To look into the life coach and the life coaching, and kind of pivot when you are, like you said, kind of, behind your own enemy lines, when you're in your own war zone, because it's really hard, like you said, just to go through the motions, let alone to start this whole new journey.
Mhm. Yeah, it took a lot of prayer and a lot of grace. A lot of prayer and grace, and it's one of those. You know, when you're newly married, you figure out things, and you figure out your own battles, right? And then you figure out your battles that you have together. And it took that. It took for my wife and I to kind of try to tackle things together, and as she's fighting her own battles from generations and generations and generations, and then my battles of generations and generations, and you're you're doing this, and then now you say, okay, hey, let's stop doing this, and now let's do this, so we can work on things together. Um, but and you have kids, and we had kids, and my kids, my girls didn't care. My only thing they cared about was daddy was at home and we're watching Coco Melon. We are watching Coco Melon, and then we watched them dance, then we watched Drake, and then we watched all kinds of stuff and take them outside, whatever the case would be. We ordered Chick-fil-A, or my cat, like, you know, that's what they cared about. We read books to them, and um, even though you're battling this, I don't want to be around anybody. You have to put that mask on because your kids are there, right? And so then you start to believe that mask, and then you start to, okay, how can I get out of this? Well, I went to my truck and I had my phone and I recorded my first episode of my podcast, Be Motivated, and boom, there it was. And then the next day, got up to put the girls down for a nap, went to my truck, recorded another episode of Be Motivated, you know. And then I started recording more episodes, and I started just, oh, let me put this stuff on, copy and paste on Facebook and stuff like that. People started listening to it. Then I started realizing, oh man, I am helping somebody. But then the funny thing is, I was helping myself and didn't know it, or really didn't pay attention to it. I was helping myself, and that's what I needed. I needed that time to focus in and say, okay, Brandon, this is about you. You're helping you, So that's kind of how I started to kind of dig out of that, dig out of that. So when I tell my clients the same thing. It's like, hey, we can meet 10 times, and you feel like this is not moving anywhere. But then you sit back and you think, okay, that first time I was there, I said 5 words to him. The second time I was there, I said 15. Then I said 25. Then I said 50 words to him. No, it did work. It's just you have to commit yourself to wanting to change. I didn't want to be in this funk anymore. I didn't want to. So I had to make a decision.
Absolutely. We're looking for progress sometimes. That can feel so daunting when
Mhm.
there are all of these external factors and there are all of these internal factors and these automatic thoughts saying to us, there's no way out. There's no way to move forward. We can't do this. We can't do
Mhm,
that
mhm,
for
mhm.
ourselves. We can't be this for our family. And what you did in nurturing your children, when you started talking about Chick-fil-A and Coco Melon, right? As you said, okay, my children are not my support for me. I am 100% support for my children. And being able to say, look, if I can do nothing else in this world, I can be support and I can nurture my children. And
Absolutely.
there are so many studies that show that when we nurture somebody else, when we nurture a Tamagotchi pet, right? When we nurture a stuffed animal, that we reap the benefits of that nurturing, because when we're doing the nurturing, we are receiving that feeling as well. We're receiving that support for ourselves, because it
Absolutely.
disproves the idea that nobody cares, right? It
Absolutely. Absolutely.
disproves that idea, and we can be so stuck in that, like, I'm alone in the world, I'm the only person having these, right? We can be so isolated in that feeling. And as soon as we go, no, wait, if I can nurture somebody else or something else, then I can be open and vulnerable to being nurtured as well. And as soon as we're open to being nurtured, that's a vulnerable place to be.
Oh man,
And it's
it's
scary.
vulnerable. It's scary. It's a I also think of my culture. Blacks we don't talk about stuff. Like, you have that, what happens in your house stays in your house. Why are you telling other people your business? And so, you know, counseling and life coaching and seeking help is not something that you are you are kind of introduced to in a positive light, right? In a positive light because you're not supposed to. That's what they tell you. You're not supposed to. And especially with men, right? So especially with men, right? Like and I touch on that in a few of my episodes of Be Motivated is touch on like men, like we need we need help too. Like, you know, yeah, we're supposed to be strong and all that type of stuff, and we are, but we need help too because so many men can't trust the people that are around them because for whatever reason, and that like that hurts. A man wants respectability, right? A man wants to be respected and trusted. Everything else he can deal with. And when those two things are violated, depression sets in for a man. Like the battles that a man has to have every single day, and then a man as a whole, and then you go as a black man and as a minority man. Like those type of things are just those are heavy in itself, right? On top of whatever you're struggling with, and you have to try to navigate through that. That is where it's hard. And if you don't have the right partner or support system, you could be stuck for a very, very, very long time.
I say that's listening to you talk. I'm just thinking about all of the kind of intersectionalities between, the intergenerational trauma that goes on, but the fact that we use that term in our field and in society, but we don't ever really put it into the definitions that we should, which is
Mm,
that, yeah, exactly. There are cultural intergenerational traumas that are heavy and that are weighing down on people. There are, and yeah, exactly, whether it's race or poverty or gender, but they all stack on top of each other. And that is why it is so hard to break those intergenerational cycles. But then, like you said, if you're doing it quote unquote right, which I mean we're all human and we don't always get it right, but then yeah, like then your kids don't even really know what you're dealing with, which is such, it's huge.
Exactly. You want to, but you also got to be careful with that because you want to shield your children from it because you don't want them to carry that burden. But part of you don't you don't want to shield your children from it because you want them to understand that it's real, and this is how you're gonna have to navigate through it, right? So it's like you want to shield your kids from you know everything bad in this world, right? But you kind of can't shield them from it because they need to know this stuff is real. They need to know like what to do, when this or that happens. Same thing as your emotions. Yeah. Bottom line, your kids didn't ask to be born into the situation that they've been born into. You as the adult have to navigate around that to make them feel as comfortable as possible. If you do that, succeed. If you can't do that, that's a failure. And now you really, really have to dig deep and figure out like how are you gonna fix that? So no, like to your point, absolutely correct with that. And then, the generational curses are there, man. Like people understand how serious that is. And that's with whatever race, right? It's with whatever race, ethnicity, you have generational curses that you're just like, man, guys, we do this like all the time. How can we break this? Because sometimes Denzel Washington said this, and I'm not gonna misquote, but I'm gonna paraphrase. He said this, that even the minute you start breaking generational curses, that's when your family starts to attack you. You know what I mean? So who wants to battle that? I'm not ready to battle that.
Absolutely. It feels like swimming upstream so often because it feels like that path of least resistance is going with our support systems and
Right.
following their lead. And because if we change the way that we approach things, if we change the way that we parent from the way that we were parented, or if we change our viewpoint from the viewpoints that we were taught growing up, then it can feel to those around us, our natural support system, like we
Mm-hmm.
don't need them anymore, right? We don't want them anymore. Like we don't love them anymore. We don't accept them for who they are.
Potentially that we're judging what they were doing.
That we're
That's
just
it. That's it.
absolutely.
That's it. We're
And
judging.
yes, and it can feel like that. And so it's so you're giving so much empathy to that side. And I think that's so important because so many times it's easy to get into, well, these are the things, right? And I'm who cares, right? I'm just going to do what I want, do what's best for me. And that is a huge step. It's a great step. But that battle with our support systems can feel so isolating that
Mm-hmm.
what is sometimes best for us is to model that empathy and continue those lines of communication, continue that empathy and understand where those external pressures and messages are coming from. Because so much of the time, they're not coming from a place of malice. Sometimes they are, but a lot of
Right.
times they're coming from a place of, this worked for me. I want you to do the same thing. I want you to be able to do what I have been able to do. And
Man.
and
Man.
when we can go, oh, they're trying to protect me. They just don't understand, right? They just don't understand what the world is for me at my age, right? For me in this generation, where the world is right now. Those are We can have understanding and grace for those previous generations, and we can
Right. Right. Right.
it was different then. They didn't understand. They didn't know the things we know, and that allows us to have grace for ourselves when we have grace for them. So much of the time it can feel like I either have to choose my support systems or I have to choose what I believe in. And I love your message, which is you don't have to choose. You can do both. You can do
Oh
both.
yeah, that's so important. I mean, grace is just it's so powerful, right? It's so powerful, especially when you appreciate and you understand that you've been given grace compared to what the alternative could have been. And I think that the more people that realize that and see that, the better the better your decision making is. The better your decision making is. So yeah, I mean it's a like grace is taking me, from being in a dark hole to I'm happy, bright lights, all the goods, right? So it's just but you have to find that person has to be able to be willing and able to find that within themselves.
So I kind of want to go back a little bit. We had mentioned, that of course you're a support for your clients, and then we
Mm.
talked a little bit about that vulnerability piece. And um, when you take those two and kind of put them together, I guess talk to me and Julie, if you would, a little bit about how vulnerability and how grace kind of works its way into life coaching sessions. Like, I mean, I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming that there for a while, particularly depending on the client, there might be some issues with vulnerability. And
Mm.
then, so talk to me a little bit about how that plays out.
It's hard to get somebody to be vulnerable. It's hard to. It doesn't matter what your problem is. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. It's hard to get somebody to be vulnerable. It's hard to get them to really, really, really address themselves, right? Um, so let's start with that. Now, second, you bring in grace. I think when they know they're not being judged, when they know that it's okay, then that's when the vulnerability takes place. Like when they have a safe space, right? Like I had this one client, my first two sessions, it was us just staring at each other, because they wasn't comfortable talking. They had, and reason is because they had so much to say, they just didn't know how to like really unleash it in a way that I could kind of get the information and process it myself and then help them. And I've had other clients who day one, they tell me their whole entire life story. So I mean, vulnerability is grace itself, right? It's vulnerability. It's grace telling you that it's okay. And then once the vulnerability takes place, then grace happens. Because hey, I'm Maggie. I'm telling you everything right now. I'm addressing myself to you. I'm telling you my deep dark secrets. I'm telling you stuff that I ain't told nobody in my life. Da, 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 da. And I know you're not judging me. I'm crying to you. I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm getting emotional. All this stuff. But you're not judging me. You're giving me grace. You're giving me grace enough to understand that I can turn this around and I can lead the life that I want to lead. That's how. Like that's how. And it's hard to come up. Like, as a life coach, sometimes people don't take you serious anyway. Don't take you serious anyway. Um, until they start to really talk deep and you're catching on and your responses are like bing, you're just boom, 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 and you say, hey, I don't prescribe medicine, or let's do this. Let's map this out over the next 3 weeks or so. This is, here's your fishbone, right? Here's some ideas that you can do. Then they start to feel, oh man, okay, he knows what he's talking about. So you're battling that anyway as a life coach. So now you're telling somebody to be vulnerable. The first thing I have to do is show them grace. Get them to understand, like, hey, I'm a safe space for you. Then once they understand that, then they're good to go. But grace has to be shown first before you expect anything and anybody to be vulnerable.
And you had talked about that human need for respect and for trust.
Oh yeah.
And when you're building rapport as a life coach, as a counselor, or as a helper of any kind, person to person, we need to be able to have that trust to be able to take off these layers and layers
Mm,
and
mm,
layers and
mm.
layers of identities that are our shells, that are we sometimes we think are protecting us, right? These labels on us, right? So for me, like Asian American woman, mother, right? These kinds of labels that we think define us and that have nothing to do at all with who we are. And when we are able to remove those, we're able to just connect person to person. And when we demonstrate that by modeling that respect, right? Letting somebody sit for an hour in a session,
Mm.
say 5 words to us, because that's where they are that day. That's where they are with building that trust in us. We're modeling being respectful of that. We're not going, hey, you haven't been talking a lot this session, right? We're going,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly,
you
exactly.
that's the exact amount of time that you needed to talk today, right? That's the exact amount of words that you needed to say today. And that is absolutely fine with me because we are respecting that person as another human in the room.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you have to welcome that. You you know you have to get to a point where if they only want to talk 5 minutes, they talk 5 minutes. They want to talk 10, they talk 10. I'm not gonna force it out of you. Okay, hey, you want to talk 5 minutes? Okay. You know what? All right, let's sit here. Do you want some water? Here, let me give you some water. Let's sit here. I'm going to take notes. See, I'm very adamant with that with them. I'm gonna take notes while I'm communicating with you non-verbally right now. So I'm gonna take notes. You can just talk whenever you want to talk. If you don't want to talk, that's okay. And then sometimes you have to, part of that is it's hard because you're not shutting the door, but sometimes you have to let people know, like, okay, this is all you want to say. That's our session for today. Go home and think about it, kind of process it yourself. Our next session, then we'll come back and we'll see if we can talk 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever the case may be, right? Sometimes they have to understand that you're at their beck and call, but you're not at their beck and call. Like, even when you're going through trauma, there's boundaries within those traumas, right? Those boundaries. You can't just go off and pop off everybody and all that type stuff. There's boundaries in that trauma. And sometimes you have to set those boundaries and make those boundaries very, very clear. So the next time I come talk to you, doc, if I'm coming to talk to you, I understand, like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. If I talk 10 minutes, I know my session is going to be 10 minutes. That means that I'm gathering every thought that I have and I'm spewing it to you. Even if it takes 15 minutes, I say, that's all I got today. You know, then that trust, that rapport that we talk about gets built up, right? It gets built up. Your patience, your grace gets built up. And then most importantly, I become way more vulnerable with you. You know, that's kind of the way I looked at it when you started talking about this. Like, man, that's actually perfect because that's the way I am. Like, okay, well, looks like all you have to say today is this right here. So let's kind of wrap up our sessions. Is there anything else you would like to tell me? No? Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.
I guess you're talking about like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, those kind of things. What does and I get that there's probably not like a typical, but what does like a life coach session look like? Is there kind of a typical time frame for a session or like any sort of I guess, general structure that's followed?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, you have your set times. You have your set appointment times. You meet, you sit down, or Zoom or phone call or whatever the case may be, and you kind of, for me, my structure is always touch base based on the last conversation. So if I've given you homework, hey, I need you to do this during this week or whatever, I touch base with that. You know, but most importantly, I'm just like, hey, how are you? And then it's like, how's your life this week? You know, and it's, oh man, I'm doing great. Okay, well, anything specific you want to talk about it? Then I start narrowing it down. Is there anything specific? I give them. So my thing is, I give them options, right? I give them options to tell me on their own, and then I dig into, is there anything specific you want to talk about? So it's another option. Like, no, no, I'm okay. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna, whatever it is, I'm gonna go get us some water, or I'm gonna go get some water, or I'm gonna, give me one second, I use the bathroom, whatever the case may be. I always find some way to give you 5 to 10 seconds where you're by yourself. You're completely by yourself, and then I come back, and then it's like, oh, by the way, I was thinking, you know, um, but I always provide that space for them. Like if it's little kids, we're doing activities. As you're doing activity, I'm going to talk to you. So how's mom and dad treating you? How was it? How was the teacher? They're coloring, whatever the case would be. And some, if they have some type of like um, autism or something like that, I talk about very creative stuff, Amsterdam and Hoover Dam, and just different things like that, just to spark conversation. You know, a lot of times what I figured out is with the life coach is people just want somebody that they don't know to conversate with that's not going to judge them. That's it.
Yeah. And the focus on giving somebody that time to be alone, but supported within the session,
Yep.
right? You're holding space for that person to do that internal processing of what's happening, because by being another person in the room, just by being another human in the room, we're adding to the external, right, factors that are happening for that person
Yes,
just
yes,
by
yes.
being there. And so, you had talked about, there are a lot of themes through what you shared with us about your journey and your depressive symptoms that had to do with the kind of the battle between the external world, the legitimate
Mm,
judgment happens externally, and how we feel that and process that internally, and kind of the push and pull of that. And what a counselor and what a life coach, what a helper who is focused on holding space for somebody else to do their own healing, what that person is doing is creating an external system where that person can internally thrive. We're removing as much of that external piece as we can, so that the person is able to focus on that internal and strengthen that process.
you know, uh, that is very intriguing that you say that, because it is a process. It's all a process. And once your client comes in and they understand that it's a process, that healing is a process, that communication is a process, that guidance is a process, that life coaching is a process, that psychiatry is a process. Like, once they understand that everything that they do emotionally is a process,
We're
then they
so
they understand things better.
we're so trained in our society, I think, to be outcomes driven,
Yes.
right? So we're so task oriented, we're so checklist oriented, right? Do this, you get this. Do this, you get this. And it takes away some of that freedom to be able to say, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to see an outcome of that action today.
Well, and I think that actually, yeah, it's all a process. And I agree with you that we very much are looking for like the checklist. We want an order of operations. And I think that goes back to kind of that social conditioning too. We're conditioned that there's always kind of a black or a white, there's a right or
Mm,
a wrong. And
mm.
more often than not, it's not. It's more gray, it's more processes than we like to think. And I think um the even because I know I've experienced this from the therapist side of things. Like even when you have those conversations of like, emotions and regulation and all of this, these are processes. It's still hard for some people to be like, okay, it's a process. Now show me the steps of the process. And I'm like, but it's individual. I can't really. I can give you parameters, but
You
We're
know, you
making the
know,
map as we go. We're not
yes.
following the map. We're making the map.
Within those processes though, and Maggie, you hit it right. It's like, okay, hold up. Guys, there is a process, but let us get to that point, right? Let us get to that point. We are doctors, you said we are creating the map, right? But let's go a little bit deeper. We are the map. So even though we're creating it to where it's something that's tangible, right? Most of your clients love when you give them something that's tangible. Like if you give them something that has scriptures on it, quotes on it, or something like that, a book. Here, take this book and read this. They love it, right? Like if you notice, their eyes light up, their sensories are like, oh my gosh, I get a book today. I get a book today, right? And so they take it and then they immediately do what with it? They immediately open it up. They immediately open it up, right? Because it's something that's tangible, right? We are creating the process, but we've already done that. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're in the position that we're in. We've already done that. It's just when the client's coming in, they're on the outside they have no processing right now. They have no understanding about how this is going. They don't get it. Like so they only thing they know is they got issues, right? They have issues that they want help with. Whether or not they go to you for referral, they go to you because of advertisements, they go to you like whatever the case may be, that's why they're in front of you because they have issues that they need help sorting out. So we are the process, but it's very, very important that we set the groundwork, as you all said, that we set that groundwork for them to be accepting of the process. Just because they understand, like, oh yes, it's a process, they don't have to accept it. Right? I'm not being vulnerable with Dr. Johnson. Heck no, I'm not doing that. No, there's no way. My family's not coming in there. No, don't ask me if I want to bring my wife to counseling. Hell no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Because they go back to what? They go back to their cultural, generational trauma. I'm not doing that because and then when you dig deep, it's that, right? That's the part that's not processed, right? Understand that's the part that's not processed. They don't understand that. Versus you get some people that say, you know what, I am gonna go home. I'm gonna talk to my spouse about this and I'm gonna see what they think. And because those people they've already been conduced to, okay, we are in this together. We need help. Yes, I have this addiction. Yes, I have this problem. Yes, I have this. But now the spouse is saying, well, you know what? Maybe I'm not doing this to help you. So we are in this together. Or your depression, I'm setting off triggers because every time I come home, dinner's not ready. Or every time I come home, there's a bag of chips. And I know you have to stay away from chips. And now that's creating this, or the kids are crying, or we don't have any peace in our home, which is what I'm segueing into, right? We don't have any peace in our home. Your clients have issues that are going on. They're trying to sort them out themselves 25% of the time. 25% of the time. Even when they see, they go back and they say, yeah, I can't believe they said that to me. And I'm gonna try it a little bit. I'm gonna see if it works. Up, it didn't work on Monday. I'm not gonna worry about it, right? But I'm gonna tell her that I did it, right? I'm gonna tell her that I did it. But then it's like, But imagine, can you imagine when they don't see you? They're at home trying to figure it out. Imagine how they don't have any peace at home. Think about that. They don't have any peace at home. So when you don't have peace in your own home, it don't matter what processes we do, doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter any of that stuff. When they bring that stuff to you, they've only sunk deeper in quicksand. Right? So that's kind of like my segue today is that like peace in the home is so important. It's just as important as grace. It's just as important as grace, peace in the home. And when you're constantly going through something, there's no peace in that home. Oh my goodness. That's when the storms come.
Yeah, and you had talked about your wife going through her stuff individually, and then you going through
Yeah.
your stuff individually, and where that turning point was, where you stopped fighting each other and you together started fighting those
Mhm.
external battles together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the people in our lives can become some of the only reflections of ourselves sometimes. And so the things that we don't like in other people, the things that bother us in other people, tend to be somewhat reflective, right, of what
Yes.
judgments are we making about ourselves, what judgments are we making about the world, that are stopping that piece from happening internally. And you talked about how people do, they love having scripture or books or quotes or mantras, and the reason for that is because it's a mirror. A counselor is a mirror, a life coach is a mirror, anything we read or hear is a mirror. And if we're in the
Perfect.
dark and we can only see out from us and we can't see ourselves and where we fit into everything that's going on, we are going to be lost. If we're in the woods and we don't have a compass is a mirror. A compass reflects back to me, what direction am I facing? A compass is a reflection of me. And so when we're doing those reflections intentionally, like where we're saying, okay, I'm aware that I'm looking at a reflection of myself because
Mm,
I'm seeing,
mm, mm,
how
mm.
does this statement fit with me, right? How does this situation reflect what's going on internally with me? When we're doing that intentionally, it's so powerful. And when we're doing it unintentionally, by letting our reflection shine in other things or other people, right? And then it's tempting to go, I don't like what's in that mirror, so I don't like that mirror, right? As opposed to saying, I don't like what's in that mirror. There's something going on with me. And so I love what you're talking about being the map, because as helpers, we are that reflection. And we're a positive reflection, right? We've
Yes,
all
yeah, absolutely.
been to stores where you try on clothes. They have a good mirror. They don't have a good mirror. Oh, this has shown really good pictures, right? Because of the lighting.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we all have that, and so to a counselor or a coach that's giving you that positive reflection, right? That reflection that's palatable, that we can take and process without feeling like, ooh, that's a bad mirror, right? That doesn't look like me at all. We can say, hey, I feel safe enough now to look at my reflection
Yeah.
this person because there's not judgment staring.
I say, and that kind of goes back to the grace piece, because that's once you're able to look at yourself with enough grace to see those reflections for what they are and go, okay, what's up with me? Because I don't like that. I mean,
Perfect.
like you said,
Perfect.
it's powerful.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. The whole reflections is oh man, like it's you know, it's powerful because when you look at it, it's all about transparency, right? And it's almost like when you see sometimes a little baby or a little animal, you put a mirror in front of it, it runs from it because it doesn't yet understand that's me, right? We do that at times, right? We run from it because we don't yet understand, man, that was me. Um, but no, just powerful, powerful. That whole piece you just said, that whole reflection piece was just powerful.
I love that. I love that image of a dog barking at the dog in the mirror. See what's
Yes.
big scary dog in that mirror, right? I don't like that mirror. Well, we don't know because we're not intending to look at a reflection. Whereas when we are doing that self work, we go, "Oh, I'm looking at this mirror that is a reflection."
Right, exactly. Or you ever seen like the little memes where they have like the dogs, they're outside and there's a fence or there's a glass in between them and they're all barking at each other, right? But then the gate opens up and they all stop, right? That's kind of the, you know, that's like to me that's a visual saying like here's your reality right here. Here's your reflection. You're barking, they're barking, right? Your issues, their issues, right? And you're trying to battle through these, and then the gate opens up to where you can walk through and you can what? You can take care of your issues. You can welcome your issues, but you do one thing: you keep quiet. You keep quiet. So no, I definitely understand that.
It has been great talking with you so far today. I did this, it went so fast. And I know we only have a couple more minutes. So can you just let the podcast listeners know what your website is and kind of where they can find you if they'd be interested in
Yeah,
talking to
yeah.
you or looking into your services?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I've had such a wonderful time. Yeah, so we have a website. It's www Motivated Minds Consulting, and it's the one that has nice, pretty buildings. It's nice, pretty buildings, and backdrop to that is grow with us, right? You know, we're all in this together. And so when you do see that those buildings are to help captivate your mind into understanding like you're looking up, right? And that's where we're trying to go. That's where we're trying to go. And we have all kinds of services as you probably see if you're on the website, all kinds of services. And so our consulting firm bases on one thing: we want to help people. And whether it's help people, help businesses, whatever, we want to help you, right? So it's kind of our thing there. We do have an Instagram, Motivated Minds and Consulting. And you can find us on Instagram. It doesn't have a lot of activity, but we do from time to time postings there. Um, we do have a podcast, B, just the letter B, and then Motivated LC. And you can find us there, and it's yeah, we just like I said, man, we just try to get our word out. And just for me, I love being featured on podcasts, trying to spread the word, spread our opinions and our views and things like that. And what we do is again, we want to help you. I think that's the most important thing, especially with today's world and what we're going through now, and kind of what we're in the middle of it. We need each other. We really need each other. And mental health is real. Depression is real. And it's something that for men we need to speak on a little bit more. We need to bring a little bit more awareness to it. So yeah, so that's how you can contact, and you can contact me any part. That website goes. You can fill out a little card at the bottom, and it goes right to my email.
Wonderful. Brandon, this has been a wonderful interview. We are so glad to have you here, and we thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you back on the show, maybe in the spring, if
Absolutely.
you'd be open to. I feel like Maggie and I could talk to you for the next 6 hours. I could just talk to you all day. So I'm so glad that you were here with us today and joined us. I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and we just really appreciate it, Brandon.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I had a wonderful time. Great pace. I had a wonderful time. Great topics. I loved it. I could talk to you all for about 6 hours as well.
Well, we will make it happen.
I'm Brandon Moore, and I need a counselor.
Awesome. Me too. We all do. And I just love everything we talked about today.
I'm Maggie Alton.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us